Jill, and welcome everybody. So not only the lunch slump, but the heat slump as well. So we're going double in. But no, delighted to have you here, because I think this is a really important subject, but it's one I want to challenge. So for our time today, I've got 3 invitations to you, okay? The first one, be present. I think it's one of the hardest things to achieve in today's modern world, is to avoid looking on your phone, avoid thinking about what's next on the schedule. But I want to share stuff with you today that can have the potential to change how you deal with some really critical situations. Keep curious. I love the phrase childlike curiosity, because some of the stuff I'm going to cover will seem obvious and almost too simple. So therefore, it's very easy to dismiss it. And I want you to take part, okay? This is not me standing up here giving some thoughts. This is an interactive session where I really genuinely want to equip you with practical ways to help you master how you lead when the stakes are high. So just very quickly, who am I? How have I got to talk and be interested in this subject? So the first part of my career was actually as a headhunter. I always add one of the good ones when I say that. And I ran my own recruitment company for 7 years, servicing creative agencies. And in that time, I loved it, but I also had a real problem with it, because I would pass things over and then they would fall over unnecessarily. And that got me really curious. Why are amazing leaders and really committed businesses not succeeding with high-stakes leadership change? And so when my young son, who's now 6'4" at 16, was only 7 months old, I took a decision to close my own company, pretty much at the height of its success, to go on my own high-stakes journey. And I won't lie, if I'd known quite how hard it would have been at times, I may not have been so bold with 2 feet in, but I do not regret it for a second, because I knew that my passion lay in this world, high-stakes leadership mentoring. And I have the privilege and pleasure to work with the best leaders out there, C-suite leaders, executive teams, in the world's biggest brands, awarded creative agencies, when they are navigating high stakes individually and collectively. And I do think I have one of the best jobs in the world. So what I'm sharing with you today comes from that practical, real-world experience. And I actually started this quest 2 years ago. I wanted to challenge some myths, because I think times have changed. And some things that came out to support leaders, especially female leaders, that came out years ago were so helpful at the time. But times moved on, and some of these beliefs haven't. So the myth busting we want to do today is about reframing around imposter syndrome. And I'll tell you more about that as we go through. Quick run through what to expect. Oh, if the clicker works. No clicker. Okay, here we go. Where do I have to click? Okay. So what is imposter syndrome? I think that in itself is just a fascinating question, because often we just assume that we've got the answer to that. How it shows up, the power of that reframe I talked about, and I want to give you a practical tool from my own program called The Real Method, so you can go away with value. I would love to have time to do a Q&A with you. I love being interactive with an audience. And now it's time, though, that we move on to taking part. So I've got some questions for you. And I'd love some people. I don't know if we have any roving mics. Do we have any roving mics? Okay. I want you to take a moment just to think about this. What's your definition of imposter syndrome? And just think about it. Have a moment. Oh, you've got a lady, arm up straight over there, if we can take a mic round. Thank you. Because I've never had 2 people have the same, interestingly.
I think imposter syndrome is the natural reaction that we would feel in a space where it's obvious we're not welcome because we don't look like anyone else in that space.
Thank you. Anyone else? Time for just a couple more. Down here at the front. No, go for the mic, because at the back they can hear you.
For me, it's about people telling me I'm good enough and I'm capable, and I've done this for 15 years, but inside I'm like a sieve. It just falls out and it doesn't stick. I just still turn up and I think I'm just not good enough.
Thank you for your honesty. And can we have a man? Can we have a man share? Yeah, Matt, back at the back. Thank you. And thank you for going first, guys, and being brave.
To me, the imposter syndrome is what's stopping everyone talking now from giving an answer. It's thinking everyone else has a better answer or is more qualified to answer than you feel.
Thanks, Matt. Thank you. So, if we sharpen the lens now to this question, what do you find hardest, if indeed you feel it, because let's not presume everybody does, but if you do feel it, again, love some people just to shout out, what do you find hardest about overcoming imposter syndrome as a leader? No matter what level of leadership you're at, everyone is leading. Has anyone got anything? Yeah, we've got a lady behind the pillar.
My biggest challenge with it is actually kind of the opposite way round. It's how many of the people that work with me have imposter syndrome, totally unnecessarily.
Yeah.
So just really struggle with it every single day when I can't actually quite relate and find it really unhelpful.
I love the honesty that's already in this room, because that's what we need. And one more. Yeah, thank you.
I think there is still an element of gender. Just being part of a senior leadership team, for example, is still male dominated, unfortunately. So it is still feeling that for me.
Thank you. So let's go positive. Let's lift the vibe. What does work well for you, whilst we hang in this phrase of imposter syndrome, which we won't be for much longer, what does work well when it comes to overcoming it? What have you learned, what have you tried that you found has helped you, or you've witnessed has helped somebody else? Yeah, lady at the back. I would say with a fan, but that's not very distinctive today.
I'd say what works well for overcoming imposter syndrome is going back and looking at your successes and realizing how far you've come,
Nice.
and what little you would think of you today.
That's a lovely, thank you. The challenge I'll just add to that is time. A lot of people don't prioritize time, especially in creative businesses, because it's always about what's coming next, especially agencies. It's never about reflecting, is it? But I think putting that into your rhythm and your muscle memory, it is priceless. Thank you. Yeah, lady behind.
Reframing it in terms of if you're happy to fail and learn from your failures, then imposter syndrome doesn't even exist.
Yeah. We could also dig into that and do a whole other talk on what is failure, because it's always subjective. So why don't you have a moment, just have a bit of a check-in. I know it's subjective, it's not scientific, but I'm a great fan of numbers because they cut through and they just get straight to the heart of the matter. But here's a little challenge and opportunity to you, and maybe take this away as a practical tip. Do not use number 7. 7 is a red herring. Yeah, whenever I work with my clients, I don't allow them, I'm a mentor, not a coach, I don't allow them to have 7. Because isn't there a difference between 6.9 and 8.1? Yeah? 7's where you hide. Yeah. It is so revealing, because people know, when they do 7, I say, but you can't have that. And some people are really rebellious and they really insist. I say, no, you can't have that. And they know in their heart if they're a 6 or an 8. They just don't want to admit it. But once you know that, you're in a much better place to take positive action. So just in your own minds, have a think. How much does it affect you? And are you being honest? That's the first challenge. And what's it telling you? If you're 8, brilliant, what's working? No, not wrong way around. If you're 8, come and see me. If you're 2 and it's not affecting you too much at the moment, great, what have you learned? What have you changed? So I don't know if you can read these fun facts that we're about to have around imposter syndrome. It came around in 1978. And I said it was helpful, I think, when it first came out. It made people just stop and think. But look how many people say it affects, 82%, it affects their careers. That's not cool. That's not good. And here is the thing that I really think is a reason to want to change it. Imposter syndrome has, in my humble opinion, become an industry. It makes money. And the irony around imposter syndrome courses often is they don't want you to not have imposter syndrome. They go the opposite way. They want you to name him or her or it and just keep it with you forever. I don't think that's very healthy, personally. So I think it's time for this. Let's just let it go. It could be as simple as that. Just say, do you know what? This no longer works for me. It did, and it's helped me, and it's helped others, but hey, maybe there's a different way. And I think since everything that's happened with COVID, that we all forget now, but it did happen, and it's still having an effect, it taught us we can do things differently. Pretty incredibly, and often a lot more easily than we were anticipating when we have to. So this is what my language and the work I do with my clients, because we can't just take imposter syndrome away and leave a vacuum. Nobody likes a vacuum. Yeah, it's dangerous. So this is what I'd love for you to experiment and play with learning instead of the language of imposter syndrome. Are you ready for the reveal? Sorry? Yes. Oh, thank God there's people alive out there. Thought you'd all gone to sleep. Okay, it's this. Just let that sit for a moment. Fantasy fear. Because what you're feeling when you have imposter syndrome, the whole thing about imposter syndrome, it's not true. Yeah, it's the limits you put on yourself. It's the doubt. And that often feeds a fuel that is fueled by fear. And that is incredibly powerful and does get you incredible results in life and in work. However, it comes at a ridiculously high cost. Anything that's achieved through fear is what I call away from energy. The real fucker with it, I do swear, because it's real, you don't feel the joy, you don't feel the success, because you're not giving yourself permission. Whereas when you look at it as fantasy fear, well, isn't it instantly lighter? And isn't it more just bloody accurate? It's a fantasy and it's a fear. Oh, okay, I know what I can do with that then. And we're going to dig into this a little bit more. So now it's time for the reframe. I love a reframe. Okay? So let's just look at what I think, and I know because I see it with my clients, and do you know what? I have been there myself as well. What shows up when you're going in that imposter syndrome tunnel. I think it's pretty much a cul-de-sac. You get stuck and you have to get yourself out, and there's no joy. Who likes turning into a cul-de-sac, thinking you're going somewhere and realizing it's a cul-de-sac? It's bloody annoying, isn't it? And what a waste of time. It's the same thing. So to me, imposter syndrome feels incredibly fixed. You have it, well done, and it ain't going anywhere. Yeah? It makes you think, what's wrong with me? Oh, why can't it stick? Everyone else seems happy. And I was doing a fireside chat earlier today, and I talked about devil and angel. And I often say to my clients, who's in your ear, the devil or the angel? Because when my clients are talking to me very openly in a trusted, totally safe space, I will say to them, do you realize how you are talking to you? It's horrible. And would you talk to anybody else in that way? No, I wouldn't. How would you feel if anyone else could listen to our conversation now? Ashamed. Yet they're doing it to themselves all of the time. Heavy. Have you ever seen anyone light up with joy telling you about their imposter syndrome? Yeah. Their faces look sad, their bodies often go down, and their voices drop. Well, that's not a good place to drive change. You're already setting yourself up for a disadvantage. And weirdly, and I use that word on purpose, it's become a badge of honor. Oh, I've got it too. Yeah, mine's called Jill. Oh, mine's Jack. Let's hang out together. It also, if I'm very direct and challenging, as those of you who in the room have worked with me know that I am, it's just an excuse, often. It's an excuse. It's a distraction. It just takes the pressure off actually bloody well doing something about it, because you're lost in this spiral around chatting with your imposter. And it's stressful. And right now, isn't the world stressful enough? Yeah, it's pretty hard out there. Hot in here and hard out there. And quite frankly, guys, it's a waste of your energy because you ain't going to achieve anything, in my opinion. Yeah, it just makes it harder. You go around in circles, and it's not uplifting. Yes, it serves you to sometimes be braver. Yes, it serves you to have a cushion. Of course, there are things that you can get. There's always value if you look for it. But I just think there's an easier way. So now let's look at the reframe through the lens of fantasy fear. To me, with the power of language, so I quite love neurolinguistic programming, but when my clients are speaking with me, the language that they use is ridiculously revealing, but they don't know it. Because language often shows what you're really thinking and feeling. But I think it's just a clear instruction. Hey, brain, guess what? And especially your subconscious brain, who doesn't always play nicely with you, okay? Your subconscious brain has been given a clear instruction. It's a fantasy, and it's fear. Ah, why didn't you say so? I know what I can do with that then. So it's accurate. And it shrinks it. I think it just makes it more manageable. When imposter syndrome becomes so big in your world, you can't see anything else, and everything is tainted. Everything, if it's really having a strong voice in your ear. And the worst thing is often that tainting isn't shown to other people, and often you don't accept it yourself how much it's having an impact. But it is. So we want it to be smaller, we want it to be lighter. And we also want it to be easier to remove, because there's that lovely saying which I truly believe in, everything you ever want is on the other side of your biggest fear. Yeah, you just have to be brave enough to go through it. And wouldn't it be nice if your own brain had space for more? In a world where we're overrun with comms, God, AI, bloody hell, is it Claude, is it chat, I don't know. You know, it's so much that we're having to deal with. So if we can free up our brains, take up less energy, already you're in a stronger place. And let's not forget another thing. Let's just be really honest as well, because it can be a bit woolly and nice to talk about this kind of stuff. You are in, as a leader, a competitive arena. Every business you represent is a competitive arena. So you want to be giving yourself the best competitive advantage going. And I believe this can really help you unlock that. So for all the parents in the room, be prepared to smile with this image. Inside out. I love it. I love it, I think, more than my kids. And especially with the addition and bloody anxiety. Hello. That was a good build. Because when imposter syndrome kicks off, and actually, although it's a cartoon, it was, I think, such a clever way of showing what goes on in the brain. And the difference, you know, sadness, you know, they're so accurate. If you're having a lot of your emotions running you because imposter syndrome is having a field day, it's just exhausting and unfulfilling. And this is why. Don't you love that image? Imposter syndrome often feels like there's something about to eat you. The literal monsters under the bed. And it's heavy. And look how big the spider is and look how small the person is. It's not healthy waiting. But I think if you go through fantasy fear and indulge my love of a bit of cuteness, now my kids have grown old, I just do it through decks now, it makes it lighter. Yeah? It shrinks your fear, so it's more playful. And it's something you can enjoy, like joy. It's something you can have a lot more fun with. And fear doesn't have to be terrifying. Fear can be fun when you have the right support, because you're learning, you're growing, you're expanding. And isn't that what leadership's all about? And also, if you're doing it for yourself, guess what? You're set up to do it much better for your people. And they will thank you. So, I always like to get practical. So I want to now take you through a tool from my program, The Real Method. The foundations I see missing in high-performance leadership all the time. The basics, which comes from that history and recruitment I had. So very quickly, I would challenge everyone in here to be able to define your job properly. If I said to you, what's your job in one simple, motivating human words, one phrase? I've not met a CEO yet who can do that behind closed doors. Because nobody asks you, especially if you're new in role, looking at no one in particular. If you're new in role, just do a sense check. What's my job? It's the most obvious question that we always never ask, especially at C-suite. Okay? Emotion, how do you feel? This is the pillar we're going into today. Emotion. Your feelings are everything in high-performance leadership, especially when it's high stakes, which is where I specialize, because it's all heightened and less room for error. You've got to know what motivates you, acceleration, and very honestly and obviously, leadership. A lot of people can't actually define their own leadership style. And even more importantly, they can't define the leadership style they'll need to create to deliver on their high stakes moment because they're too busy in it. And high performers can be very lazy when it comes to this because they're delivering results anyway. But it's at a cost. So I want to gift to you today a practical tool from the Real Method which underpins the emotion pillar, and it's called the 5-word reveal. It's something that I created to help you achieve that reframe. Because this is what I think is so important. How would your life be different for the better if you could understand your emotions more accurately? And not just understand them, work with them. And you want to have a plan of action. Because I think often, rightly so, coaching, development can get a bit of a rap because what does it actually deliver? What's the actual tangible results? So this is a technique I'm going to give to you that I know, it's proven, takes negative results and makes them positive. Does that sound like a nice thing you'd like to learn? Indulge me, guys. It's hot up here, okay? Alrighty. So this is what I'm going to take you through. This is, I hope everyone can read it. This is the 5-word reveal. There's 8 steps, and this is live mentoring now. So I encourage you, seize the opportunity. Hopefully you've all got something you can write with, even if it's just your phone, okay? But grab something that you can make notes with. Okay? All right, so we're going to start. I want you to set the stage in your mind's eye. Doesn't matter. This is your complete free choice of what you're choosing to work with at the moment. It could be in life, it could be in leadership. But there's a high stakes situation that you know is important to you right now. But there's an element of jeopardy around it if it doesn't go well. It matters because no high stakes moment comes without risk and jeopardy. It's part of the joy, but it can feel overwhelming. I want you to get the situation in your mind's eye and start to evoke how your body is feeling when you think about this high stakes situation. Again, in modern world, we are not trained to use our body well. The signals we get from our gut, your intuition. So I want you all in your mind's eye, and for some of you might even close your eyes now to bring it properly to life and block out everyone else. What is that high stakes moment that you have right now in your life, privately or professionally, that evokes emotion and you're not maybe quite sure how you're going to navigate it through? Okay? Hopefully everyone's got something. So we're now going to capture how your emotions are reading. You're going to ideally create 2 columns, a column on the left and a column on the right. On the column on the left, and I don't want you to think too much, I want you to go into that gut, go into your wisdom, because we all have it, we just often blank it out. List for me, in just one word, the 5 emotions that you feel now thinking about that high stakes situation. There's no PR here, bloody honest, please. How do you feel emotionally when you think about that situation, whether you're leading yourself or others through it? Maybe a combination of both. Five emotions in a lovely linear line. Because even that act in itself is incredibly revealing. And we often skip it and we go on to action too quickly. So once you've got 5 emotions written down, or as many as you can do, because I appreciate reflectors aren't liking me here for this pace. Yeah. We're going to go to the next step, step 3. You're going to feel the weight. So however many you've written, they are all going to add up to 100. 100%. And I'd like you to put next to your column the percentage weighting that you feel that emotion compared to the others. If it's really strong, it could be as much as 60, 70%. I encourage you not to have 520s, because that's a bit too neat for a human, an emotion. It doesn't normally happen. And again, with more time, we'd be pausing to actually say, what does that tell you? Now, when people are doing this exercise, it's very rare, even the most highest performing successful leaders, senior C-suite leaders out there, it is, I don't think I've ever had it actually, where every emotion is positive. Yeah? It tends to vary between 3 positive, 2 negative, or 3 negative, 2 positive. There's always a dominance, though. It tends to be a dominant. And there's 5, so there has to be, hey? Because the honesty is, with high stakes, it does evoke a range of emotions, and that's good. That's not a bad thing. So you're looking at your percentages, and you're thinking, okay, so is my dominant lens here positive emotions? Or actually, although I have, and maybe you haven't got any positive, that does also happen. Sometimes they're all negative. That's also okay. There's no right or wrong here. But you're just working out, what's my lens? Is it predisposed to feeling good about this, or actually feeling a bit overwhelmed? Is my fantasy fear much higher than I realized? And then it's time to look, if you have got those negative, just give them a moment to be acknowledged. What are they? Often when I do this with clients, anxiety comes up. More and more recently, tired comes up. Worried, frustrated. They're very common. Along with excitement, joy, ready. Yeah, there's a whole plethora that go in. Now, we're wanting to flip the script. So I said there'd be 2 columns. So that's column A. Column B next to it, what I want you to do is any negative emotion, when you rewrite your column in column B, flip the script to your positive opposite, your language. So if you have anxious, for example, what's your positive opposite word? It might be excited. It doesn't always have to make sense. It's whatever is your positive opposite to that negative word. Flip the script. If you have positive words, they can sometimes just go straight over to column B, or you might want to amplify them, to change them. But this is when you're taking your anything negative in column A, and in column B, you're just going to make sure every word there, every emotion is a positive emotion by simply asking your brain to flip the script. My positive opposite word for that negative. It is as simple as that. Okay? And this is really vital when we're especially wanting to talk to fantasy fear and our subconscious. When I'm working with clients, I will play it back to them. I will reread their language. I will really give their emotions oxygen and air to be acknowledged. And I will say to them, okay, so you're about to go and take on a new job as CEO, or you're about to go and do this big pitch, or you're about to change something massive, who knows? Which column do you want to take forward? Column A or column B? I am yet to have someone say column A, because there is normally negativity in that. And they all say, well, it's obvious. Obviously, of course, it would be column B. And yes, of course, when you're being rational and you're going into your emotions, it would be. But what doesn't happen in the real world is this structural, practical thinking. Okay? So that is such an important step in this process, to consciously give that direction to yourself, to your state, to your physiology, your emotions, your brain, your heart, your gut, all of it. You're giving it that instruction. I actively want to choose column B. And now this is where we go much more into connecting with our beautiful gut, our instincts, our intuition. Because again, every time I do it with a client, they know. They know like lightning when I ask them this question. So I then say, and to you, ignore now your percentage weightings. They are now no longer primary. But with your intuition, look at the flip that you think will be the first practical step to move you from column A to column B. So let's say it's tired to energized. Just going to make that one up. And this isn't rocket science. That's the joy of it. This stuff is deceptively simple, as I said at the beginning. Let's say, oh, okay, I think for me to move from column A to column B, for that high-stakes situation, my instinct says it's that flip. And you might only have one in your columns. That's okay. So you want to go from tired to energized. So I would then ask my client this next question. What are the 3 things you can do to move from tired to energized? And I give an instruction, very specific, and I make it around 3. I call it the power of 3. What are the 3 steps you can take to move from tired to energized? And that might be as simple as get off my screen at 7. Yeah? I don't know if, like me, I have that bad habit of doom scrolling. Where did that come from? Let's get rid of that. It might be eat better. It might be get home earlier so I can be with the family so I can switch off. I don't know, I'm making it up. But there will be answers that you know, if you just stop and give that instruction, what 3 things can I do, it will be really clear to you what you can do. Because again, I've never had a client stumble with this. It's incredible. They know, because you give the instruction. And then what you can do is keep breaking it down by the power of 3. So you might say, right, I need to get off my phone, because that's draining my mental energy. Okay, so what 3 steps do you need to do to make sure you get off your phone properly? Keep going by the power of 3, because it's incredibly helpful for breaking it down into manageable bite-sized steps. You might set yourself quite a big goal. I need to get to the gym 3 times a week to get out my stress, or just to feel healthier. Okay, so how are you going to put that in your diary? So it's just very practical. How will you make that flip real? But that's the answer. That's what it takes to move. As I've just talked about, plan your moves. Okay, so when you've done that, you have gone through the 5-word reveal. You're looking at your honesty about how you feel about a high-stakes situation, which you may not have wanted to admit to yourself previously, because it can feel a bit like Pandora's box. If I admit it, sugar, what then? What then? How do I do it? What you now have is a practical tool, the 5-word reveal, where you can check in with your emotions and go, okay, how do I honestly feel? Because there's nothing to fear here. I just want to be honest with myself. Do your columns, weight them to see, okay, am I negative or positive dominance? What does that tell me? Flip your script and then plan your moves. So you might just do 1 flip to start with, or you might plan 3. It's entirely up to you. But this work, I was doing it with the CEO, okay? They were about to start a brand new job. We happened to be chatting on a Sunday night. And I said to them, I did the 5-word reveal over the phone. And I said, how do you feel about Monday, tomorrow? And they were excited, ready, anxious, nervous, and one other I can't remember. And we did the 5-word reveal and we completely flipped the script. And I said, how do you feel now? And they were like, I can't tell you the difference. Because here's the really interesting thing. If they'd gone into that morning as that new CEO, their first ever CEO, super high profile in the industry, but it was their first ever gig as CEO, they would have leaked that energy. Because the naked truth is they were feeling anxious, and rightly so. It's like, I've not done it before. But by getting hold of it, they changed their own internal energy, which meant they just felt and were much more in control and calm and confident for the first day, because they'd processed their real feelings. And it gave them a completely different experience for them, and I guarantee would have given a different experience for the people who were welcoming them as well. Okay, so coming to the final hurdle. We've looked at what is imposter syndrome. We've had some lovely stuff from the crowd. How does it show up in senior leaders in moments when you're thinking about your team or you're not trusting yourself? We've done the power of a reframe. That it does, the thing about a reframe that I really want to get through to you, it's not complicated. It doesn't have to be difficult. It can be as easy as that process I've just shared. It is as easy as that process. And it works. But it changes you. It changes you just for the better. And remember my little fluffy monster? You feel lighter. And therefore you are lighter. And your brain is in a better place to be present and curious and take part, like I said to you at the beginning of this chat. Please use the practical tool from the real method. It's there to help. So I hope you will use it in the real world, because it's not theory. It really is practice. And then what I'd like to do is have time for questions, Q&A, because this stuff, I think, comes to life when it is made in a more real sense, a real setting. So before we move on to the Q&A, just a little bit I'd love to hear from you, but also I want to give this gift to you, because it's too quick, isn't it, to move on. Q&A, guys, and my LinkedIn profile's coming up soon, so do connect. It's too easy, as that is happening. It is too easy to do that. But before I do that, I'm going to have the bravery of a pause for you. in your life, in your world, but most importantly, in your mind. And I want you to think about these two things, because guess what? We have time, a luxury. We actually have time. I want you to think these two very important things. I hope you have learned something today, but what is it? What have you learnt about the idea and the possibility of reframing imposter syndrome to fantasy fear? And just take a moment. I really encourage you to do this with written words because it's too easy to think and forget. Maybe indulge me. Write down 3 things, or at least one, that you have learned today for yourself. Just take a moment to process that. And if you find your brain is racing, there's some muscle memory to build there. And then I really want you to think, and if this is connected, and for some of you it might not have done, and that's also okay. But if this technique, this practical way of mastering your emotions, to master how you lead better in high stakes, what action do you want to take as a result? Because you all had, I hope, a high stakes moment in your mind's eye when we started. That hasn't gone away. That's still happening. So what action can you take to support yourself, if it's just about you, your team, or your family, if it's in your private life? What real road, rubber hitting it, action can you take to actually do something about it? Because again, here's the honest truth. Most people won't. And that's a waste. So take a moment, just think, what are you going to do about it? I wish you could see how fast the fans were going. You're all speeding up as we're getting hotter. Action, get cool. But I know I'm being a bit flippant, but with every single client I work with, I have a discipline. What have you learned and what action are you going to take? Because that's what often we don't have when it comes to our own growth in big jobs, because there's no bloody time. So, it's your lucky week because on Friday, the monthly edition of Mentor in Your Pocket is going out. So if you would like to receive practical, bite-sized mentor, I sound like a market stall holder. If you would like to receive, seriously though, a newsletter that I put a lot of love, time and attention into, it goes out the first Friday, 7:15 of every month, but it's not happening in August, hence it's your lucky day. Please take the QR code. Also go to my website. You'll find at the bottom there's a way you can sign up. And it's genuinely there to support leaders through change, taking all the work I do with my clients to gift as much as I can to make a difference in the world. I did tell you there was a LinkedIn QR code coming. I can't tell you how chuffed I was when I first worked out how to do that a year ago, as I'm not the most technological person in the world. But there is my QR code, and I would love you to link in with me. I think the world is better together, and the more we connect and support each other, it genuinely just makes the world a better place. And it'll be coming back in a second. And now, then, I think we have some lovely time for Q&A. And there's LinkedIn. LinkedIn, guys. LinkedIn. Did I say it enough? And I'll just thank you very much. Thank you for coming.
Hey there. Have we got any questions? I've got a roving man with a mic. If anyone wants to put their hand up and ask any questions, I know we had some earlier. Everyone gasping for energy. Yeah, that's it. Anyone? Oh, there's one just over there, just behind the screen there. There. Let's go that way. There. I imagine Sally might also wait in the lounge later if you want to have a chat with her. Yeah?
Hi.
Hi.
Quick question on, obviously you work with leaders and high-powered people, but how do you think these things apply to people who work in another area which is notorious for imposter syndrome, which is the creative industry? So people who are making arts and living in that space, do you think the same rules apply?
Sorry, I'm just losing you a little bit.
Do you think the same rules apply in terms of leadership as they do to people who might be making art and things like that? In
Art
terms of,
in
yes.
the creative. Oh, 100%,
Yes.
if not worse. Because you are by nature creative. And you are by nature, therefore, often more self-critical. I think creativity can sometimes need to go through a bit of a process to get it out. and help it to flourish. And I don't think we should fear that. I think it's part of the process. So, and I work, I'm pretty industry agnostic, and I work as much with agencies as I do with big brands. And, when I'm working with a creative leader, they equally benefit from this, definitely.
Anyone else got a question? Okay, I'm going to say, can we give Sally a big round of applause and say thank you very much?
Thanks, guys. Thank you.